Alright, so with it being about 2 weeks until the second half of 2.4 is out, with it being the new limited 5-star character Jiaoqiu, there's been a lot of talk going around wondering if Jiaoqiu is going to be this new must-have, super good, one of the best characters for Acheron, due to the fact of what his kit does and one certain thing that he will be doing above any other character in the game for Acheron. And so today I kind of want to be talking about him, talking about Acheron, going over the team options she kind of already has, why those debuffers are already really good, and then why Jiaoqiu is also going to be extremely good for the team. And then also some reasons why it might not be super needed for everyone. Also going to be talking about E0 and E2, obviously, because at E0, it's a pretty big difference from E2. So I definitely want to be addressing both of them. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Before I get to the video, drop a like, drop a sub, hit the bell icon for more videos like this, and let's get straight into it. So just to knock this out real quick, just for anyone that might not actually know how Acheron works, pretty much she herself does not actually function off regular energy. If you look at other characters such as Dr. Ratio, Sampo, Topaz, Aventurine, everyone has energy. And when they do hit 100 energy, or obviously certain characters that might be able to overcap it like Argenti and Yunli, when you do have enough energy, you're able to unleash your ultimate. Acheron, on the other hand, does not actually do that. She instead has stacks, and when she does reach a total of 9 stacks, she is able to unleash the ultimate. The way you get it is not by just getting energy back, it's actually by either using Acheron's skill or someone on your team, including Acheron, inflicts a debuff. So for the most part, other characters are going to be genning the ult for Acheron, and so usually you'd be pairing her with other debuffers. What makes this very apparent is especially with one of her traces, which would be her A4, which is pretty much when there's one or two other Nihility characters other than Acheron. Damage dealt by her basic attack, skill, and ultimate increase to 115% or 160% of the original damage respectively, meaning that when there is one Nihility character, she deals 115% of the original damage, and if there are two, she deals 160%, which is a pretty big difference. And so most common teams will consist of Acheron, 2 Nihility characters being good at inflicting debuffs, and then the last slot being a sustain, because obviously you need a sustain so you do not die. And so talking about some debuffers that are already really good in the game, there are 3 very big main ones that come to mind that practically everyone uses because of how broken they are with Acheron, and that is Pela, Silverwolf, and Black Swan. All these characters are great debuffers, and they're all also on Path of Nihility, so just taking 2 of them will get the full damage bonus from Acheron's trace, and you also have these crazy good debuffers. Them debuffing the enemy, giving Acheron charges, and usually they have something like lowering defense, so Acheron herself actually deals a lot more damage. So very briefly talking about them right now, if we look at Pela, she does have an ultimate that inflicts expose, which is a debuff, and that debuff lowers enemies' defense hit by 40% for 2 turns, and 40% lower is very good, so it also makes Acheron not only gain a stack, but also deal a lot more damage. And then if you do have her E4, she does now lower Ice Res. That obviously doesn't really help Acheron at all besides giving her a charge, but that's still another way to give her a charge. So on Pela's kit, without E4, she has a way to inflict 1, and then if you do have the E4, you can inflict 2. Silverwolf, on the other hand, her talent alone, pretty much when she attacks, she can inflict 3 different types of bugs, lowering attack, lowering defense, and lowering speed. So you're able to do that off the basic attack or skill. All of those will give Acheron a charge, which is really, really good. And not only that, with her skill also being able to inflict weakness, that can also help apply potentially lightning weakness if enemies don't have it, which will benefit Acheron a lot. And that also does reduce the enemy's all-type res by 10%, which is also really, really good. On top of that, Silverwolf's ultimate also has a 100% base chance to decrease the enemy's defense by 45%. So that enemy you choose to hit with the ultimate will have a 45% defense lower. So Silverwolf has multiple ways to inflict debuffs, and it can be very skill point efficient on the team because skill points can be an issue depending on what you're doing on the team. So she's a very, very good option as well. And then Black Swan, not only being able to have the Arcanas do a lot of damage, but now instead of actually only having something like defense lower by a decent amount from the ultimate, she actually has it in her skill. She has a 100% base chance to lower the defense of the target enemy and adjust the targets by 20.8% for 3 turns. So she is able to apply a debuff via her ultimate, and then the skill being the lower defense, and she can also just do it off her basic attack. So she herself is this very, very good option. And then just to name some others, there are characters like Welt, who's able to inflict slow, and also able to just make enemies take more damage via vulnerability. There's Gwenifin, who can also make enemies take more damage when they do have stacks of Fire Kiss. And so overall, the debuffer role with Acheron has a bunch of characters. Again, the 3 main ones I mentioned, Pela, Black Swan, and Silverwolf being very, very good. And then also having other options like a standard character being Welt, another 4-star that's been free multiple times, Gwenifin. There's just a lot of options already existing. Not only that, but besides the characters, there are also other ways to actually inflict a debuff. So let's say something like you don't have an E4 Pela, you can just give her something like Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat Lycon. And even if you do have the E4, now with this Lycon, there's a chance on the basic attack to be inflicted with Ensnared when you do hit an enemy with an attack, which is also a defense lower, so that's another thing that can help. And then there's other things you can even put on your sustain, such as the Universal Trend Market to inflict burn anytime your sustain is hit. So that's another way you can gain stacks. So there's just already a bunch of existing ways and a bunch of good characters to use. And now that finally took a while to talk about, but finally getting on to Jiaoqiu himself. So what does he bring? What is he going to do that makes him valuable and make him considered one of the best teammates for Acheron? So obviously he himself being able to inflict a debuff via his skill and ultimate. So he's able to generate charges off that. His ultimate also makes enemies take increased ultimate damage, which Acheron, her main source of damage, is ultimate damage. So him with that is going to help a lot. And then with the help of his talent, not only is his skill and ultimate inflicting a debuff, now his basic attack also can inflict Ash and Roast, which would be another debuff because it is also considered dot, so it falls under the debuff category. But these are not the reasons why he is considered one of the best or the best teammate for Acheron. So the biggest reason that he's considered one of the best is thanks to his ultimate. Not because of the increased ultimate damage taken, well yes that helps because ultimate scaling is going to be really good, so that's going to be really helpful, but for the fact of what it does. So TLDR, what makes it really good for Acheron specifically is putting them into this domain, or I guess in this one they would call it zone. Pretty much, it does inflict enemies with Ash and Roast when they are taking action. So usually you would be inflicting debuffs on your turn, so on your turn you're gaining these charges for Acheron with inflicting debuffs by skill or ultimate with Pela, so roll Black Swan, skill with Acheron herself. But what makes Jiaoqiu super broken for Acheron is the fact that he's able to generate a bunch of stacks for Acheron on the enemy's turn. With this ultimate up, as it says, when enemies do take action, they get inflicted with Ash and Roast, which is going to give Acheron a charge. So now, not only are you able to actually inflict enemies with debuffs via just attacking them with what he has in his base kit, you are now also able to gain stacks from the enemies getting an action themselves. And we are getting to a point where enemies are very fast, they're getting very much faster, Pure Fiction has action forwards, everything's just having a bunch of speed, so enemies can get a lot of turns, and that makes his value on an Acheron team really high, because the more times they go, the more times this is going to proc, and the more charges you get. So this lets you spam a lot more, which is why it is so powerful. It's not the greatest debuff, and he's not the best debuffer compared to the other ones, because again, we have characters lowering defense by 40% like the ultimate on Pela, which is also AoE. We have Silver Wolf being able to reduce ones by 45% and also have multiple ways to reduce others. Black Swan having an AoE that can do it just off the skill. He's not the best for that, but he still does have 15% ultimate damage taken, which is going to be helpful. But the fact that he's able to generate so many stacks for Acheron is going to be better. Because with the others, you can get a bigger hit in, and that will do more damage. But with Jiaoqiu, you can get more ults, which is going to equate to more damage at the end anyways. So assuming you're taking her into content where they will probably take a lot of damage from her ultimate, obviously, but they might also still live, you're going to be able to get the ult back way faster than you would compared to using the other debuffers. And obviously it's not going to hit as hard, but you're going to be able to get it faster, so you're going to be able to do a second one, and two of them are definitely going to add up to one bigger one that's not even going to be that much higher. It's going to do more damage, but it's not going to be that much higher, and now you're getting two, and that damage is going to equate to a better output in the end anyways. And that is why Jiaoqiu's value for Acheron is extremely good. So, now talking more about the E0 and E2. So the reason I'm talking about E2 is because if you don't know, at E2, the required amount of Nihility characters you do need is lowered by 1, so if you just have one other Nihility teammate, you get the full 160% of the original damage. And not only that, every time Acheron gets a turn, she gets a Slash Dream charge, and also inflicts a stack of Crimson Knot. So the E2 is practically just her E6. Well, not literally, but you know, it's just as good as an E6. Anyway, so obviously at E2, you have more team options. Instead of needing 2 Nihilities, you need 1, so you take a 1 and you take a Harmony support in order to gain another turn and be able to get more charge output. And so obviously at E2, when you are using the Harmony support such as Bronya and Sparkle to give another turn, then that other turn gets, you get another charge right there, and then you use the skill to gain 1, and if you have the Lycon 2. So it's a lot easier to gain stacks with Acheron at E2, but at E0 you obviously don't have that luxury. And so then begs the question, Jiaoqiu, is he going to be a must-have for the Acheron team? For E0 and E2, The answer is obviously going to be no, but he's still going to be the best option. Because obviously, nothing is super required. You can generalize and run a free-to-play Acheron team, or by free-to-play, I mean the 4 stars. But that does not equate to the fact that he's needed on the team, but he's still obviously going to be the best. Especially at E0, where you do not have another Harmony support for the most part, and you're going to have him as one of your Nihility teammates, and you just need another one. For the most part, the other one's going to have a better debuff to make the Acheron hit harder, but he himself is going to generate so many charges at E0 that you might also be able to consider just running a Harmony support instead, because that is still viable, mostly if you have Sparkle, but obviously a lot of people will want 2, because with 2, it's going to be a lot easier to get debuff charges for her ultimate, because at E2, again, you gain the 1 every time you go, so it's a little more manageable. And then you also have more of a team slot open, because now you only need 1 Nihility, so you can take a Harmony support instead. But since Jiaoqiu is going to be able to gen you so many ult charges, you can honestly open that slot for another Harmony support, because the original damage is going to be really good, but the buff someone like Sparkle can provide is going to have the little edge, especially since she's going to be giving you more output. So that opens the possibility of that. And even if you don't do that, or you might not have one of them built, or you might just not have one of those supports in general, you can still just take another Nihility character, and you're going to have this insane spamming charge, because you have another debuff for doing it, and then you have Jiaoqiu giving you a bunch of charges on the enemy's turn. So he's going to be extremely good. And as for the people with E2, I definitely think his recommendation to get goes down a bit. Obviously, he's still going to be the best, but I definitely would recommend picking up someone else if you don't have. Like, if you don't have Sparkle and you have an E2 Acheron, I would definitely recommend getting Sparkle over him, because you don't need him. He's still going to be a very big thing, but Sparkle would benefit you a lot more. But if you do have Sparkle, then it would be a recommended thing, because now you already are able to gain a lot from just having the E2, giving you that 1, and then you most likely have the like one if you have E2. So there's that, but with the turns you can get from someone like Sparkle, you're already able to gain a good amount and a lot faster than someone with E0. But if you do have Jiaoqiu, he's going to make it to where you practically will have it so much more, because even if you're able to get it a lot, the way he's able to get it by having charges be proc on the enemy's turn to give you all charges is just, it's so valuable. E0, E2, definitely recommended. At E0, much more recommended, because for the most part you won't be running for someone like Sparkle, and he makes it more possible if you do. And then at E2, it's less valuable, and someone like Sparkle will take more priority, but it's still going to be really good. And so overall, Jiaoqiu, definitely not the most #1 needed for either or, but he's definitely going to be the best, and is definitely going to be super recommended. The main reason I say not super needed is because, again, while yes, he's going to be able to give you the best output, one, there are already really good debuffers in the game. Again, Silverwolf, Pela, Black Swan, all these characters can do it perfectly fine. And the other thing is, Acheron deals a lot of damage in the first place, so sometimes you might not even be able to get the actual times where Jiaoqiu will be having the zone up, and then be able to get the charges back, because you'll be killing the enemies anyways. But with content getting harder, with enemies getting faster, with enemies getting tankier, I definitely think his value on the team is going to be up there, especially when bosses hit the points where they have millions of HP. Then it's going to be super good, because you can have the zone active for the full uptime. Every time those enemies attack, or when enemies are summoned, you're going to gain a stack, giving you more output. Definitely not needed, but will be the best teammate you can probably run, no matter what the level is. But yeah, that is the video. Hope this does help you kind of make a decision, because we do have some crazy stuff coming out in 2.5. And there's probably going to be some crazy things happening after that. So Jiaoqiu definitely on the lower priority, but since there are a lot of Acheron mains, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering. So wanted to make this video to help you influence your decision and sort of give the reason why Jiaoqiu is like this considered crazy character for her. Anyway, hope you found the video helpful. Peace out.